So, if you know me, you probably know that I like the ie200, the Sennheiser ie200. I bought it back in about 2024, and it's still my favorite piece of audio kit that I've ever used in my entire life. I mean, I've used some pretty high-end stuff. I've tried the whole Abyss lineup. I've tried the whole Odyssey headphone lineup. Obviously, those are headphones; they're not IEMs. You can't really compare the two, but still, it's probably my favorite piece of audio kit ever. I also have the ie600. I like the ie200 significantly more than the ie600, and it's mostly because the ie600, whenever you play songs on it that aren't perfectly mastered, it just sounds terrible. The treble extension is good, but it's also just sharp and fatiguing after a while. And so I had an idea of taking the drivers from the ie200 and putting them into the ie600 shell, considering that the ie600 shell is really nice. Probably the nicest IEM shell that I've ever held in my hands. That kind of cast iron Monopoly piece feel is there's just nothing like it. So in both the ie200 and the ie600, the drivers and the nozzle are in a glued assembly together, and they're glued in place by some adhesive at the very front of the IEM. So in order to fit it back in, I bought some B7000 glue. I saw it recommended for use in phone screens and stuff like that, traditionally used to make fake gemstones stick to things. I wouldn't really recommend this, and I'll get into this later. So in order to get this done, basically I just heated up the end of the IEM with a hairdryer. That loosened the ie200 adhesive perfectly. It's basically the exact same kind of adhesive that's used on a phone screen or the back of a phone. The ie600 was a different case. It was glued in with a much more intense adhesive. It had a way higher softening point. I actually had to put it in my dehydrator at the very bottom for a couple hours just to let all that heat soak into the IEM and start to actually soften that adhesive. But once I got it hot enough, I was able to get it off nice. After that, I just, desoldered the leads, soldered them back on. Since the driver and the nozzle are in an assembly together, it's literally just a matter of slotting it into the shell of the ie600 and then soldering the leads back on. So if you wanted to do this yourself, the way that you do it is there is a kind of teardrop shape on the back of the driver, and the sharp point of that teardrop is pointing towards the negative or the black lead. So if you wanted to just you don't have to mark down any sort of diagramming or anything. That's how it works. It's pointing towards the black one. So I bet you all came here to hear the results. The results of putting the ie200 driver inside of the ie600 shell, which, fun fact, are the same driver. But in the ie600, there are a bunch of resonators to kind of add that treble. I don't know if you've ever heard the two, but definitely the ie600 has way more treble. Anyways, putting the driver into the shell, it's added a little bit of sub bass. It's almost imperceptible, but there is definitely more sub bass now. There's also a small dip at around 800 hertz now, which is just like the regular ie600. It's one of the reasons I don't like the ie600 is that dip there that just makes everything sound kind of hollow. I don't want to say unnatural, but I think hollow is a good way to describe it. It kind of indicates that the nature of that dip is from the metal shell and not the driver itself, which I think is really interesting. The performance is pretty much exactly like the ie200. It has that same detail, that same stage. And other than those two dips and peaks I mentioned earlier, the exact same tuning. But that would be it. One closing note that I would say is do not use B7000 glue. Definitely for work on IEMs, don't go with this adhesive. Find something with a higher softening temperature. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Don't try this at home. I probably should have said that at the start of the video, but that's too bad.